Hello there. I've just been listening to some music that I might be using in my next production. See, to me, music is the backbone of the film. It could make you happy, it could make you sad, and it could even horrify you. But sometimes, some sequences are better without music. But more of that later, because I want to talk to you about the use of music in your films. So if you're all sitting comfortably, I shall begin. Music hath charm. Music soothes the savage, and that's a well-known phrase. If music be the food of love, play on. In the early days of filmmaking, before the advent of sound, some studios would have large orchestras playing in the background. This was to probably motivate the actors and actresses to get them in the correct mood. Sometimes it would just be a couple of musicians, as in this photograph. That is Gary Cooper in his pre-Beau Geste days. In the cinemas there would be a pianist sitting there watching the screen, ready to play his mood music, depending what was showing on the screen. You'd probably hear some musical cliches like this. Little Nell, with a babe in her arms, thrown out into the snow, told not to come back to her house. It wants to make you cry, doesn't it? Then there would be another one like this. The killer with a dagger in his hand, creeping along the corridor of the old dark house. And this was another well-known one. The hero to the rescue, saving a damsel in distress. And then there was this well-known one. Love's young dream. Then came sound, and we were bombarded by this piece of music. The cavalry riding to the rescue of the settlers trapped in the fort, or more recently it was the signature tune for the Lone Ranger series.
Hi-yo Silver, away!
My very first film came about by accident. I bought my first cine camera in 1968, and one Sunday we spent a pleasant day at the Ayrshire coast, and we were on the way back along the Eagleson Moor Road when we stopped at Ballaghaig Hill. And I said to the family, let's walk up to the top and get a view. Family consisted of my wife Betty, our 3 children, Anne, Evelyn and Billy, ages respectively 11, 8 and 3. Now their ages are respectively 53, 50 and 45. Tempest has certainly fugited. However, as we're walking up the hill, I said to Anne, be careful of that boulder there, in case you trip. When Eureka! I had a flash of inspiration. I had an idea for a film. I says, quick, get down to the bottom of the hill again. You both girls are going to have a race to the top. When your mum drops a handkerchief, you start. Evelyn, you'll be out in front, but Anne pulls you back. And she gets out in front, but she trips over the boulder and breaks her leg. Just a simple story. Here is that opening sequence. I put the film aside to give me some time to figure out how to finish it, when I had a fantastic stroke of luck. I couldn't believe it. About a week or two later, Anne did have an accident and broke her leg, and it was encased in plaster. The real thing that I could use in the film. Oh, serendipity, thank you. And I thought I better finish the film before the plaster comes off. So what music would I use? Well, in 1968, the East Kilbride Library started to rent out LPs, and I came across this one. Khachaturian excerpt from Spartacus. Now I hadn't heard of Spartacus before as a ballet music. The only two pieces I was familiar with the Khachaturian was his exciting sabre dance and the waltz from the Masquerade Suite. When I played this record, I was absolutely captivated. It's full of passion and romance and adventure and excitement and melancholy. In fact, I would say he was the modern version of Rimsky-Korsakov. However, I chose this piece of music for the beginning of the race. Oh, by the way, this is my own copy, which I bought later. It's not the library's. Later on in the film, when Anne is lying in bed with her leg encased in plaster, her young sister and brother were downstairs, just a little domestic scene. Again, I chose a piece of music from Spartacus, a rather plaintive melody, and I thought it would be apt for this sequence. Here it is. Yes, I know what you're thinking, particularly those senior members. You're all saying to yourself, that music's familiar. Yes, you'll say, I remember it. It's the theme from the Oneiden line, which we watched on the TV many years ago. You're absolutely correct. It is the theme from the Oneiden line. But listen carefully. The Oneiden line didn't come to your TV screens until 1971 or 1972. I used it in 1968. So there, said he smugly. I was there before them. You will have noticed the scratches in that film and the blobs as well. These are genuine scratches, not the computer-generated ones you get today, which to me look false, exaggerated and repetitive. These are genuine scratches. Of course, the way that came about was that I was keen to get started in film, and I was unaware that you had to brush the gate of the camera and the gate of the projector, and also you had to handle the film with cotton gloves. But we learn from our mistakes. My second film, towards the end of 1968 and beginning of 1969, was the sordid life of a striptease girl. Don't get excited, gentlemen. I wanted to show the big city at night, so one Saturday night I drove along Sauchiehall Street and down Renfield Street with my wife Betty leaning out of the passenger window, just pointing the camera and letting it run. Here is that opening sequence. Now, music. I was going to use George Gershwin's An American in Paris, but it had a kind of daytime feel to it. And then I remembered I had an old 12-inch shellac record that I bought many years before LPs were ever thought of. It was Rodgers and Hart's Slaughter on 10th Avenue from their jazz ballet. Here is that opening sequence of the music. I think it fits quite well, don't you? Later on in the film, there's a shot of a lecherous old devil with a wicked gleam in his eye, walking up the stairs with great expectations. What was he doing with Charles Dickens' book? Oh, sorry. What music? Khachaturian again. This is from one of his symphonies, and there is a touch of the Alfred Hitchcock's here. Oh, you'll have to see the rest of the film to find out what happens next. Now, copyright. Yes, that perennial question of copyright. It's all very well to say, oh, the composer's been dead for over 50 years, we could use his music. No, 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 you cannot. What about the orchestras, the bands, the instrumentalists, the soloists, who use their music by the auspices of the Performing Rights Society? They've got to be paid, and if you infringe the copyright law, the authorities will descend upon you like a ton of bricks. Why not join the IAC, the Institute of Amateur Cinematographers? And try saying that after a few gin and tonics. And for a small fee, you can get a license to use that music. Under certain conditions, of course. Better still, why not buy yourself a CD of non-copyright music specially composed for filmmakers? There's an abundance of different types of music in this, from documentary, drama, light romantic music, horror, humour, slapstick, sci-fi, the supernatural. There is an abundance of music you could use for your films. Let me give you a sample of the way music can affect your film. Not so long ago, we were all on holiday in Arran, staying in a bigwoodenhouse.com. It's on the internet. And as we approached it, I expected Norman Bates to come and greet us. It was that type of house, but the exterior belied its opulent interior. Here is a few shots of that house with some music played. It's nice and peaceful, isn't it? Nice rural type music in the country. Pleasant. Here is that same shot, but with a different type of music. You wouldn't want to go into that house. A touch of the Amityvilles, isn't it? My goodness, you would go in there at your own peril. So there you are. That's the way. See the difference how music can change how you feel about a scene. I mentioned earlier that some sequences in films do not require music. Well, in 1955, my wife and I went to the... Oh, hold on, wait a minute, not my wife. We were married in 1956, so in 1955 I was still winching her. Yes, in 1955 my fiancée and I went to the old Regal Cinema in Sauchiehall Street to see a French gangster film called Rififi. R-I-F-I-F-I, Rififi. And in it there is a half-hour sequence, full 30 minutes, of a jewel robbery taking place in this building. There was no dialogue, no background music. Each crook had their own job to do. It was superbly choreographed. Everyone was enthralled with this sequence. You could have heard a pin drop. Except in those days, the ambient sounds coming from the auditorium was the clicking of cigarette lighters and the scratching of matches on matchboxes, but that was a mere bagatelle. This is a film worth seeing just for that sequence alone. It's the art of filmmaking. So there you are. It's up to you what type of music you choose. Whether you choose music at all, it's up to you, but choose wisely. So, I'll wind up by paraphrasing William Shakespeare. If music be the food of love, gee, I'm hungry. That's all, folks. See you.